Welcome, everybody, to Sally Speaks Mindset Podcast. I am Sally, and I am a high-performance mindset and success coach for entrepreneurs, salespeople, and for those that are professionally looking to work with teams. So today, I love to be able to bring in amazing guests, expert guests, that are so seasoned at their profession, and Amy Lokken is no different. She's like a guru to me. As you can see from behind her, there's some amazing awards. So I had the opportunity to meet Amy a few months ago and was just really inspired to get to know her and to learn more about the success that she has. And so today I want to introduce you to her. She's the founder and designer of Müd Modular, spelled M-U-D-D with some little accents over the U. So we'll put that up, everything in the podcast. But she's got a background in industrial design with an emphasis on theatrical set design and nearly 3 decades of experience in the design world. She creates awe-inspiring modular sets for the studio that redefine business and connect with their audience across the camera lens. And if you know anything about film, you will know how important that is. And so even the setup that she has in her office, she'll talk about that probably a little bit later today. But her mission is really simple, is to create captivating spaces that seamlessly blend imagination, functionality, and flexibility to transforming environments that amplify brands. So she's a 10 times international award-winning visual marketing expert, as well as she's nationally sought after for her print and television media. And she knows how to create flexible selling stages that elevate brands to new heights. She resides in Eau Claire, Wisconsin in the US with her husband, Chris, and their super chill dog son, Sammy. So that's awesome. Welcome, Amy. And thank you for joining us today.
Well, Sally, thank you so much for having me. I know we really had a great conversation a few months ago, and I'm excited to be here.
Excellent. So I want to know for our viewers, like, what is it that drove you to actually get into this type of business? Like, what brought you forward to do that design business?
Yeah, I always wanted to be a designer. I always had that creativity, that seeing things a little differently and experiencing my surroundings, maybe through a different lens than others. And I didn't want to be an art teacher. No offense to art teachers, but what do you do with a fine arts degree or something like that? Long story short, end of my junior year, senior year, going into my senior year in high school, my art teacher presented a poster that came from the Art Institute of Colorado that talked about this new program called industrial design. And it listed all of these different facets that you could, and careers that you could go into with industrial design. And I thought, oh, this is exactly what I have been looking for. I never really wanted to be, kind of pigeonholed into one area, because I just felt that design covered so much. And that is what industrial design is. It really does, there in everything that is designed, typically there is some form of an industrial designer taking some touch of it, because we're all about the function and form of things. So it needs to be functional, but it also needs to be beautiful. So when you hold that coffee cup, when you hold a water glass, it feels good, whether it's in my hand, your hand, or my husband who's 6'4". There's a bit of that. And at that time, we won't talk about how many years ago that was, but I was very much into doing theatrical set design. And that was one of the pieces that an industrial designer could branch out to. Ended up doing my thesis in furniture design. So full circle, a couple of years ago, a client of mine who has a lot of our displays that she's had over the years, from trade shows to book launches, ended up doing a one-woman show at the Fringe Festival and needed a captain's chair, because she was using some of her existing product as a backdrop. And if anybody knows anything about the Fringe Festival, you have 10 minutes to set up and 10 minutes to take down. So you need stuff that's really quick. And so full circle. theatrical
Wow.
set design with furniture. So
That's awesome. So now when you're working with your different companies, are you really working with them on the branding as well? Or are you taking their brand and building it out to make it more impactful?
yeah, I'm really taking their brand and making it more impactful,
Mhm.
especially in the new modern day business world that we are in today. This hybrid, what we are doing, this
Mhm.
platform is
Mhm.
here to stay.
Yeah.
Whether you're doing a hybrid or you are um, permanently or attempting to permanently go back into your brick and mortar, there
Mhm.
will always be a form of this, whether you're traveling, whatever it is, there will always be a form of this. We now have, we now work with clients all over the world,
Yes, we do.
that we maybe didn't do 3 or 4 years ago. And
Mhm.
it's like you and I connecting. We're not really geographically that far apart,
Yeah,
but we didn't know each other until a few months
exactly.
ago. So and it was somebody on the other end of the world that connected us, which
That's, I
is
know, it's crazy.
is is just really crazy. So it's about helping people identify and amplify their
Mhm.
brand, but connecting it with their personal brand. So whether
Mhm.
you are meeting from your brick and mortar office, your home office, or you're having to jump on a virtual interaction with somebody on the road in a hotel room,
Mhm.
how are you taking the environment and allowing it to still represent your brand, your
Mhm.
personal brand, and allow you to connect on a deeper level through the lens of a camera?
Mhm. And I think that's so important because I think a lot of people are, trying to find out what it is that they stand up for. And we use our own personal background. I love how you've done your background design. And we talked about that when we met before, but it's just a very simple design, but yet it has so much impact. And when we met, you sort of taught me, okay, this is what you need to have here and here and here. And I'm like, wow, I never knew that because I've always just gone on live and did whatever. And the elements that you were sharing. So do you mind sharing a few of those little tips for people? Because a lot of us are doing just like we are. And
Absolutely. No, not a problem. I just did a master class actually last Monday for an organization, and it was really on lights, camera, and action.
yeah.
So those are kind of the three basic components that
Mhm.
I like to share with people. So, it is all about lighting. You and I
Mhm.
are both wearing glasses. We want to make
Yeah.
sure that when we are connecting with our audience, that they can see our eyes. There's a
Mhm.
trust factor there, and be conscious of what's being reflected in that. I
Yeah.
know where my lighting is. I have, southern exposure window right here, and then at another 45, I have a 18-inch ring light.
Mhm.
But lighting is really important. Everybody believes that natural light is the perfect lighting, and it can be, but it's also the most inconsistent. So I'm in the Midwest, so that sun is you know
Yeah.
prickly at times. So you have to, adjust. So just make sure that your lighting is in front of you.
Mhm.
Maybe not directly in front of you. I like to do a 2-point light source is personally one of my
Mhm.
favorites in the basics of
Yeah.
lighting. And that's just like a slight 45 or just off
Mhm.
center of your camera.
Mhm.
Having backlighting as your main source will just make you into a silhouette, and nobody wants to do that.
Yeah.
In camera angles, you want to visually, you should be the main component
Mhm.
coming through in the frame of that picture. And I go in when I'm working one-on-one with people, I really walk through the whole like rule of thirds and all that. And
Mhm.
I won't go into depth with that for time constraints, but it is really about you being the main subject. So
Mhm.
fill
Yeah.
up vertically that space. It's not about being totally in somebody's space, but it's being proportionate
Mm.
to the space in which you're in, and allow you to be that focal point.
Mhm.
You are connecting with somebody on the other end of that camera lens. And
Mhm.
it allows you in that space to be able to feel as though you're both in the same space at the same time. Adding texture and depth. kind of goes into that action and that, camera lights in action. We all know what we do, or at least you should, and have that kind of verbiage down, but
Yes.
tell that through a little bit of the background. The simpler you have your background, the better.
Mm,
Again, allowing you to be the main focal point, but then add in, like, if you have some credentials, I
mhm.
have some of my statuettes from the Communicator Awards through television and video that I've done. And then I always kind of recommend some type of foliage or plant that
Mm.
just immediately gives texture and depth and energy to the space.
Oh,
So
okay.
whether it's real or artificial, and trust me, they have done an amazing job
Mhm.
on artificial
Yeah.
foliage today. But the key there is scale. So
Mm.
mine's pretty big and
Yep.
it's at proper scale. I'll just demonstrate
Sure.
that would not be
Yeah.
proper scale.
Yeah.
Okay. So visually seeing that difference is
Mhm.
really the thing that makes that point come across in a
Yeah.
lot of ways. So,
Yeah.
you
It
know,
adds that depth to the whole look by having that bigger plant there. It just sort of frames the
Mhm.
whole, like around your face and everything. It frames everything that you're showing.
Yeah, and it's all about when you think of your favorite painting or picture, whether it's a from an artist or a photographer, they
Mhm.
have actually created the reason it's your favorite typically is because the composition is
Mm.
just laid out, that your the human eye is allowed to be able to move
Mhm.
freely around the the framing,
Yeah.
but still be engaged.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's the easiest, quickest way I can kind of explain that
Yeah.
process.
So I can
Yeah.
see with my plant that I need to make a change. And actually the little tall plant at the back is an avocado. My husband stuck in the plant to grow. And I'm like, what is this thing that's growing in my plant? So I need to get something a little fuller to be able to frame it a little better and make it less, smaller. Okay, perfect. I love that. That's going to
You
help
know,
it.
it is, and it's, everybody thinks that their brand and is their logo. And
Mhm.
really, when we're connecting this way, we should really be connecting and thinking through the essence of our brand. Like, what
Mhm.
is it like to work with you? What is it like to work with me? What
Mhm.
is that process? When people schedule with me, one of the things that I ask them in that process of, I think I have like 3 or 4 questions, and one of them is like, what are your top 3 values? Like, I want
Mhm.
to know what is connecting you to what you're doing and to
Mhm.
you as a person, and do they translate? And sometimes they come up in that, you know, that first conversation, and sometimes
Mhm.
they don't, but at least then I have an idea of that overall. So again,
Mhm.
your branding and you go much further beyond just a color scheme and some fonts and a logo.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, I like the way, when I'm looking at your background, how it's very clean and it's not cluttered with a bunch of other things behind you. Like I've seen lots of people in their dining room or their bookcases behind them and things like that, to me, comes a little cluttered.
Mhm.
Unless I have a specific book collection, like where you would have your awards, something like that, that was very specific to sort of what your branding speaks to. I could see that. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but
Nope.
I love how you have just the neutral color behind you,
Mhm.
and no big pictures and things like that. Like I should put my hands up to cover mine.
You're good.
But these are all things that you learn from an expert like yourself. So I love that you're demonstrating exactly what we should be doing. And I have a question about virtual backgrounds.
Absolutely.
So I've seen a lot of people in their virtual backgrounds and they move like I do in a thing and it gives you the fuzz around it. What's your perspective on a virtual background?
In all honesty, from personal and a professional viewpoint, I discourage them. I understand that at times they are they're kind of sometimes your only option. And then sometimes I disagree with that as well. The whole reason behind it is everybody looks like a bad Photoshop job
Mhm,
unless
mhm.
you really do have fantastic lighting, a really high quality camera and you have a really great green screen. Okay. That's really one of the only ways. So if you have to use those, my biggest advice to you is at least choose one that has proper perspective. So if people can see me, I have, my products all around me. I don't have a huge space. From camera to my wall is approximately 60 inches. So rightfully about 5 feet. It's not a huge space. Like I'm touching my wall. Okay. So it's pretty close, but the things behind me, my columns and that are actually like angled in. So I'm adding that depth and perspective. A lot of those fake backgrounds are very flat. They're not giving you the proper perspective of a room. You also then become either overscaled or underscaled in the thing. So those are things you want to just kind of think through. The other thing with them is if there's a window in those images, make sure that it, is similar to the season that may be happening in your space versus it being, snowing on a sunny July day type of thing. If that would normally be what's going on outside your window.
Yeah.
From a subconscious standpoint, and the reason I discourage them because there are simple solutions to not have to use them. Because from a human psychology standpoint, when we initially see somebody show up on our screen with a fake background, we know it's fake. It becomes a huge distraction. And subconsciously, we're wondering what you're hiding.
Exactly.
So if that's your first interaction with somebody, they are honestly really probably not listening as closely to what you are saying as much as they subconsciously are going, can I trust this person? Like, oh, I'm getting a glimpse and I'm an animated person. We all should be very animated. We're not a bunch of talking heads out here. This is how we connect, and we can actually connect with people on a deeper level, in my opinion, through the camera lens than we could if we were meeting at a random coffee shop. The reason being with that is because you are in your safe zone, I am in mine. So then we automatically should be able to show up a little more truly authentic. And when I say authentic, I mean as our best self. So we want to show up, we want to make a great first impression, and eliminating a bad Photoshop of us in a fake environment is ideal. So
okay. So I hope a lot of people got that, because
that was a lot of information.
Like, what are they hiding? Like maybe they're in their bedroom. I get it. But at the same time, if we're building our brand, and part of our brand is to get people that are going to trust us, and automatically they're questioning, where are you and what are you doing? I think that is a little bit more challenging. And even if you're in a hotel room or something like that, usually you can find a blank wall somewhere where you can set a chair and a table and just be able to do your video at that place that you're currently in.
Absolutely. And you know what? I have a lot of clients who, especially over the last few years, have had to work out of a guest room or their bedroom because they were, homeschooling children and all sorts of things, and all, or multiple adults in the household having to work from home. The thing is when you are in those bedrooms, you just need to turn around, like just be conscious of what's in your background. If it means that for that hour meeting, you have to place a box and your laptop on top of that box and on top of the bed so that you're not that, so that bed isn't in your background. It's a small price to pay, and it's a small thing, investment of time and effort to really completely change the connection you're going to make across that lens.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are great tips. And now we also talked about having your face at the same level as the person that you're on the screen with. So I think I should be closer to sort of match where you are.
Yeah, I move a lot, so sometimes I'm closer, and I am, of course, at a standing desk. So yeah, then there we're a little bit more level.
Okay. Because that's good to know, because oftentimes I know I've done it where I'm not at the same space as my friend is on the other side. And it looks distracting to people because their eyes can't go back and forth where the people are speaking as easily.
Right.
I think it just more visually looks
It
better.
does. It does. And it allows, again, our human eyes are very attuned to certain things. And
Mhm.
then it, connects with our conscious and our subconscious. So then it's so different than why we want to fill this space a little more fuller versus this. Just total different energy level that
Yeah.
it really brings to it, and then now we're at completely different level.
That's cute. But those are things that happen. I see it all the time.
Well,
Like I'm
they
on
are.
Zooms every day and I see that type of thing where people are either up or down or, one's way back and one's way very close, like all you see is the head. So it's neat to know that you can adjust to the audience that you're with, but also sort of at the same time, you're guiding them to be able to have
Absolutely.
that,
Yeah,
because you're definitely showing up as powerful and present by being where you are on the screen.
absolutely. And whether, I actually can stand back and give a little bit more of a 3/4 body
Yeah.
shot, that when I'm, doing, for instance, like the master class that I did,
Mhm.
but I'm still about the same, my head's still about the, couple 3 inches from the top of the lens,
Yeah.
but just really being conscious. So we really work with a lot of people and allowing them
Mhm.
to feel comfortable in their space, because it's going to come across
Yep.
the camera lens that you are
Mhm.
competent and credible, and you do bring something specific to the table.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I think it's all those things, and it's a picture is worth 1,000 words, and
Mhm.
that is literally that first impression that comes up on a screen.
Yeah. So now there's a lot of people that are really uncomfortable being on screen. So what do you think you could give as far as advice of being comfortable having a conversation like this on screen? Because some people are afraid of being judged. They got a lot of fear about what if I say something wrong, all of those different types of things. So what's your advice from that perspective?
Practice.
Yeah.
And remember, first and foremost, obviously practice. The more you're on, the more confident you're going to
Mhm.
get.
Mhm.
The more you appear in framing and
Mhm.
being more prominent in your space is going to give you that confidence, because we
Mhm.
all, you know what, we're going to be judged.
Yes.
It's a natural instinct. I would say removing we can't remove our ego, but what we can do is we can attempt to become a little bit more in center of our ego.
Mhm. Mhm.
So there are two ends of the ego, and neither one is a great place to be. And that is the egotistical end and the self-deprecating end.
Mhm.
When we start coming a little bit more in center of our ego and realizing that when we show up on camera, when we are doing things like this, whether it's an interview or we're, jumping in on a prospect call or whatever it is,
Mhm.
networking, understand that you're showing up for them, the person
Mhm.
on the other end
Mhm.
of the screen, not yourself. Like, I'm not showing up here for me, I'm showing up for you and your audience.
Yes.
And that can change everything,
Mhm.
because when we want to show up as our best self, which means we're being authentic, because that's part of, hey, I want to impress you, but I want to do it authentically,
Mhm.
then that means we're showing up as our best. So if
Yes.
we're showing up as our best, we're typically thinking of the people we're engaging with.
Yes.
We're not really thinking about ourselves. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and I think, especially when you're in business,
Mhm.
it's not about me, it's about my potential clients or my clients that I already have, that I'm showing up for them to make their experience the best that it can be. So when you take yourself out of the picture, it's much easier to just focus on the message that you're delivering and to be present for the other people on the other side of the screen, right?
Absolutely. Yep. 100%. Because the more we can do that, the easier and the less nervousness. Now,
Mhm.
there should always be nerves. I would hope that you would still even have nerves if you were walking into a, boardroom someplace. Like, there should always be that. But you know what? Everybody has to start somewhere. And that's why I say also that kind of practice of,
Mhm.
and then just making it part of your daily routine to start up your day, turn on your camera on your computer, your device, take a screenshot, assess how you are appearing. Is this how
Mhm.
you want to present yourself? It's
Mhm.
like no different than looking in the mirror before you walk up on stage or walk into somebody's office.
Yes.
It's just reassessing things. You're just
Mhm.
looking, and oftentimes I encourage people to actually print those out or take the screenshot or the
Mhm.
photo, walk away from it, and then review it because in a photo format, because it'll give you the true perspective of what your audience is seeing.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
Mhm.
Excellent. So now, I know you also have some podcasts of your own, and you've been able to be on stages all over the world, I'm sure. Tell us a little bit about that side of your business.
Yeah, well, I actually have I've been a co-host on The Advisors season 1 and season 2. It's a streaming show on the Notoriety Network, which is where seven of the 10 awards have come from. And I was the visual marketing expert season 1 and season 2 on The Advisors. And then I had the opportunity to host my own show called Impact and Influence, which was also on the Notoriety Network. And we just recently won 3 awards for that show.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
So it's a, great little show to their, my show in particular are pretty quick episodes. They're about 15 to 20 minutes in length,
Mhm.
packed with just a lot of great information on how welcome to the new world of business and life. It is really about us wanting to make that impact
Mhm.
and influence those around us, whether it be in a business or personal
Okay,
form.
awesome. So there's some great tips and advice for people that are in business and people that are wanting to get into business if they go to the Notoriety channel and look for your name.
Absolutely.
Excellent. So now, as we're moving forward, I know you do a lot of things for trade shows as well to
Mhm.
help people with their visuals. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because a lot of people are now ready to get back out in person in events. And I've had a lot of people saying, oh my gosh, it feels so good to get back out, but oh my God, now I need to get all of these things in place. So what would you be helping people with in that regard?
Yeah, so what you're actually seeing behind me, with the exception of the wall, and those are just wall skins. They are they
I love it.
removable pieces of vinyl.
Yeah.
But the columns and that you see behind me are actually four-sided, so you can switch up
Oh,
your
cool.
um, your graphics
That's,
endlessly.
that's beautiful.
And then we have great magnetic graphics, so you can, highlight things. And then the
Okay.
whole thing is actually able to come down, it collapses down into an accordion fold, and
Mhm.
you're boom, throwing it in a carrying case and can set it up. At a trade show on a table, you can stack the columns, you can do multiples. We have
Mhm.
graphics that connect the columns together to create a nice 10 by 10, 10 by 8,
Mhm.
um, very highly visible in the 360.
Wow, those are really incredible because I like how when you flipped a couple of them around, there was whole different graphics on them. So you
Mhm.
could have 3 or 4 different things. Let's say I was doing a women's show one week and then I'm doing an industrial show the next week for whatever my service is, then I can just have those all in one place and just flip them
Absolutely.
around depending on that. Wow.
Yeah.
I love it.
This
Yeah.
is actually one of our a sample of one of our graphic or one of our clients. And so, Lisa could actually, set her entire thing up where she could
Yep.
hang it actually, off the side and
Okay.
just create some really incredible branded pieces.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So,
Perfect. And then, you might have one piece that you would want to update because you have a new product or something. So you could just get that one piece to add to it. Are you able
yes,
to do that? Yeah.
absolutely.
And then just,
Yeah, because once you have the system, it's just really easy to update, including our, magnetic graphics. If one
yep.
side is good, we can resurface that and keep
Oh,
the other
wow.
side. And So
I love
fun
that.
stuff.
Looks so simple compared to, the trade show booths that I've ever had to put up and all this nonsense that I've had to do. But that one looks incredible. And I really like that it's interchangeable. And it also has a lot of color if you want the color, and like you've done with the wheel there, just having it offset so that it's not just a square or rectangular piece. That's
Right.
really
Yeah, and this is just my branding. We do it obviously in everybody's branding, and we certainly help people through that process and understanding how they're using it and the different ways they can use it. So like I said, I have 2 columns stacked there with a turntable, and then I have 2 actually stacked next to each other to create a podium table type behind me. So
okay. Those are fun. So you're into lots of different elements. So you've got all of the design background, you've got the video background, obviously camera background, the lighting, all of those different elements of that industrial design. So it's been really fun to have that conversation with you. Is there anything else that you would love to share with our audience today?
I think it's just, own your space. You make sure that what you in the space that you're in is that you're comfortable. I will say another tip is, keep the personal items as far as family maybe out of the background. I understand that they are typically our why in a lot of us, and mine certainly are. They happen to be in my peripheral vision. They are, beyond my camera lens. What our audience is seeing behind us is just as equally important to us of what we're seeing beyond our own camera. So just making sure that your environment, not just what's in your background, but what you're also seeing, how you feel in your space will also alter your confidence on camera.
Yeah, awesome. I love that, because I think there's a lot of people that, it's like you said, it's always behind them, but if it's in front of them and they're looking at that and they're seeing that visual and they've got their littles up there and they're like, this is why I'm a stay-at-home mom doing this work from here, so I can be with you, that kind of thing. It just would give you that motivation and that inspiration to continue doing what you're doing and be the best at it, to be able to get to your goals. Excellent.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's so many different little tricks and tips, and we can talk for
I'm
hours.
sure we could be on this for hours and hours. Excellent. So now how can people connect with you, Amy?
Through my website is a great way, and it is mudmodular.com. The 2 dots above the U are umlauts, a little dedication to my dad. I actually started my company while I cared for both of my parents through their final journey. So it's definitely a little bit of a nod to my father. Or obviously LinkedIn and messages, but simple email, and Amy at Müd Modular.
Okay, excellent. Well, I really appreciate you spending time today. We will have all of her contact information and her background on the podcast, so you can check it out there if you forget what she said, but definitely have a listen a couple of times and experiment with your home office if you're working from a home office or your corporate office, because even in corporate, we're still doing the same things. And I think more often than not, we can have a stack of books or notebooks or other things just in a mess behind us that, is a reflection of who we are in business. So whether you're working from home or working from the office, take some of the tips that Amy gave and really understand how simple it can be. Like, I love the peelable wall. I love all of those little elements that can just simply be cost effective for us to be able to set our offices off, to really identify who we are and our branding and keep the focus on that. Because that's really why we're wanting to be on camera to begin with, to educate people and to help them with where they want to be. So thank you once again, Amy. I really appreciate that. And it was lovely to see you again.
You as well. Thank you so much, Sally.
My pleasure.